Good morning. Thank you for joining Living Well with Benedictine. I'm Dina Boheim, Marketing Director for Benedictine. In case you're not familiar with us, let me explain who we are. Benedictine owns and manages more than 30 communities, senior living communities in 5 states, in Minnesota, Wisconsin, North Dakota, Illinois, and Missouri. So you may know someone who lives in one of our independent living communities, in our assisted living communities, or possibly you know someone who receives care in one of our long-term care settings, short-term rehabilitation, or even memory care. So part of what we aim to do as an organization is to extend our mission of living fully and living well beyond our community walls. So through this webinar series, we hope to do that by bringing you information on a regular basis that can help you improve your spiritual, your mental, or your physical well-being. Today, we hope we can help you improve all those things by focusing on your physical space. Whether you're looking to move and downsize, or if you simply have too much stuff, our session on moving and downsizing tips will help you understand that tackling those closets, that basement, or that attic doesn't have to be a daunting task. We have an expert here who help make it seem doable. Who knows, maybe by the time we're done, you'll be raring to go. So I'm pleased to have Jill Freeman here with today. Jill is a senior move specialist and professional sorter with Gentle Transitions. Gentle Transitions has been moving thousands of Twin Cities seniors for 29 years. Jill will share some educational tips to help those considering an upcoming move or who would just like to declutter for the future. We will cover downsizing, sorting, packing, unpacking, and maybe you'll gain some valuable knowledge, and for sure we'll help you learn about some resources that can help you get through this process gently. So before we get started, we will be taking questions at the end of the session, so feel free to type in on the question and answer box that you should see at the bottom of your screen. So we hope to hear from you. So Jill, welcome. Good
Hi,
morning.
Dina. Hi, everybody.
Thank you for joining us.
Oh, yes.
We're thrilled to have you here today. As you know, as a team, we were thinking about the timing of these webinars, and it occurred to us that people are spending more time at home right now, and they might have a bunch of stuff around them that's kind of driving them nuts. Are you hearing that now that people have more time on their hands, that they're spending more time decluttering and going through their stuff?
Yeah, they are starting to go through their things, and I highly recommend it. It will help you go through the time,
Yeah.
and it's always a good thing to do.
Yeah, so please help us out here. Let us know what we can do to make our surroundings a little more manageable and enjoyable.
I would love to do that. I would love to do that. Would you like me to take off?
Yeah.
All right. Hello, everybody. It's so nice to be here. I'm going to tell you just a quick little history of myself. I've worked for Gentle Transitions for 4 years, but I have been downsizing for over 40. I'm that kid who people called to start going through things, and I come out and I go through closets and I go through attics with everybody. And it is never too early to start. I have a lot of people that ask me, when should I start downsizing? Well, yesterday. So I'm going to go through a few things and give you some of the experiences that I've had and go through why it's hard to get rid of things. So I'm going to start off with my favorite cartoon. This is the Zitz cartoon from the Star Tribune. This will make us all feel like we're in it together. It's Jeremy, who's 24, just going away to college and helping his mom put things in the attic. Here you go, Jeremy. Thanks. Here you go, Mom. Thanks, Jeremy. What is all this junk? Mostly things we're saving for you. These boxes are your elementary school papers and art projects. That trunk is where I store your middle and high school memorabilia. And we thought you'd want all this old furniture, plus Grandma's china cabinet and knickknacks for your first apartment. Mom, my first apartment will be a backpack that I carry around the world between gigs. And she goes down and she says to her husband, "Our attic has been living a lie." Now, most of us have those kind of places that we know are stuffed with things, but maybe we're avoiding. It's always a burden that maybe we're not aware of. And I tell you this because when I worked with my 98-year-old adopted grandma, we were in her apartment and I said, "Where should we start?" And we were standing in front of the linen closet. And I said, "How about here?" And she said, "Don't open that door." So I knew that was where we needed to start. I opened it up and it was stuffed with 35 towels. It was stuffed with Christmas presents she had forgotten about. It was packed. And I said, "Does this bother you?" And she said, "No, I just walk really fast past the closet." So I knew it bothered her. We downsized it. We kept 4 towels because she does laundry at least once a week. We put everything in it that she uses on a regular basis. The next time I came, I said, "How are you feeling about the closet?" And she said, "I haven't even thought about it." That's what happens is we think about it, but we try not to say that it bothers us. So that's why I come out to talk to people and why I'm talking to you today about downsizing. Did you know that on a scale from 1 to 10, downsizing and moving is a 10 on the psychological stress scale? That's only behind death and divorce. So if you think it's hard, it is hard. General transitions moves thousands of people. And so I like to come out and share the experience that we have so that people can start going through things with a little bit of confidence and have a little tools in your tool belt. I'm going to share our process that we do when we move somebody, because even though we're smart enough to know that most people have family move them, you're going to be doing the same process that we do. So I'm going to share that information. We're going to talk about sorting, which is downsizing. We're going to talk about packing, unpacking, moving, putting everything back where it belongs. And I'll also talk a little bit about the complimentary move assessment that we do. If somebody calls us and says, "I'm moving in a year, I'm moving in 6 months, I'm not sure where to begin," we send someone out who we call a move manager. That move manager is like the wedding planner of your move. They are going to handle all the details. They're going to ask you the kind of services that you want. So we're going to talk about that because these are things that you're going to have to do yourself if you're moving yourself. So why is downsizing difficult for older adults? Well, the number one reason is probably we're leaving a home of many years. Some of our clients have lived in their home for 60 years, 50, 40, and they've accumulated a lot of things that are theirs. They've accumulated a lot of things from their parents. They've accumulated a lot of things from their grandparents. And they don't know where to start going through them. The second thing is physical challenges. A lot of us have knees and backs that aren't what they used to be, so we need a little help. The third thing is children aren't always available. Maybe our kids don't live next door anymore. Maybe they live out of state. Maybe they live out of the country. And they're not able to come in and help go through things little by little. I had a wonderful client I worked with who called me and she said, "My daughter called from Colorado and said she's coming home for the weekend and we're going to get it all done." You can't get it all done in one weekend. That is way too stressful. It's better to do it little by little, starting early. Now, the last thing that makes it hard is the emotional piece. And that's probably one of the top of the list. Because if we weren't attached to our things, it would be a lot easier to let them go. So I'm going to share about managing expectations. I'm going to share a book title with you. This is a book called Downsizing the Family Home: What to Save, What to Let Go by Marnie Jameson. She talks about her own downsizing of her family home and how hard it is. This is the book I recommend. One of them. There are so many out there. I recommend this book because a lot of people have told me that it has really helped them. So think about getting this book from the library or buying it with a group of friends. It would be a great book to do on a book club if you have a couple friends that are thinking about it, thinking about downsizing. When I read this book, because I work with people all the time, I came up with 7 takeaways. There are some great takeaways. There are about 7. The first one is, they're just things. Chances of us having something that is antique roadshow $1 million value is pretty rare. So as you go through things, try and keep that in mind. The second thing is, age does not confer value. Now, I have a lot of people say, Jill, I have a lot of antiques. Antiques are 100 years old, but they don't necessarily have the value that they did years ago. It's all about what is trending, what kinds of things people are buying. And if you're hearing from your kids that we don't want your stuff, mom and dad, that is because that isn't the kind of things they're using to decorate. That isn't the kind of things that they want to hold on to. So the next thing is, worth is a worthless term. And I say that because it is collections versus collectibles. What's worth something to one person may not be worth the same thing to somebody else. Now, this is my flying pig. I collect flying pigs. I love them. They make me happy. A lot of us have collections. They're kind of worth a dime a dozen, but we love them. We love the thrill of the hunt. We love to keep them around us. Our kids aren't necessarily going to want them. My kids have already told me they don't want the pigs. So think about, if you have a collection, is it a collection you have around you that makes you happy? Or is it a collectible that you maybe need an appraiser to take a look at? So those are the 2 different things between worth and what somebody else thinks it might be worth. The next thing is wholesale versus retail. You will never get what you paid for something. This is hard because I know some people invest in dining room sets, and when we bought it, it was $1,500. Dining room sets, if they're the large wooden heavy sets, are worth less than $200 now. So that could make a difference between giving it to donation or trying to get money if you sell it. The next thing is condition matters for value and donation. So if you have something that's chipped, if it's china, it's going to be worth less. If you wouldn't give it to your kids, don't give it to donation, because they're often raising money to give to a cause, and they want people to have nice things too. The 6th thing can be a touchy subject. This is family history, because family history without provenance or certification for an item could be wrong. I worked with a wonderful woman who had a button under glass. And she said, I have carried this around for me every place that I moved, because my family has told me it's a button from George Washington's coat. And she said, I have nothing that proves that, but I can't get rid of it. So we did a little research, and we found out that that button was not from George Washington's coat. So she was thrilled because she was able to get rid of it. And that wasn't promoting the family history because it wasn't true to begin with. So think about what you've been told. If you don't have the research or the provenance or have it certified, do that, because that will be much easier to get somebody in the next generation to take care of it. The 7th thing is, remember your goal. Your goal is to open up your space, maybe making it less expensive when you move. because if you're going to take everything, it's going to cost more, and you're not going to have the space for it, so you might need storage. And the next thing is you're making the decisions for yourself. The longer you wait, and if you get into a crisis situation, those decisions are taken away from you. And that is what you don't want to get into. I want you to look at this diagram. It's a wonderful diagram to talk about why it's hard to let things go. It's obstructions to coping. So let me tell you, the middle purple bubble is fears and pressures. People are afraid that they have too much stuff, that once they start going through it, they're not going to be able to let it go. They are pressured by their families. Maybe their kids are saying, you just need to get rid of things. I can give you a little hint. If your kids are bothering you, continuously telling you have to start downsizing, sorting through things, sometimes that's an indication that they're worried. They're worried that you're going to leave it all for them. You're going to leave it for them to try and figure out what is important. So start telling them the stories about it. Also, make sure you tell them that you're thinking about it. Once they know you're thinking about it, they might back off a little bit and give you a little more space. Let's start with the first bubble, memories. People hold on to things because they don't want to let go of a memory. It reminds them of something. I had another wonderful client who had 40 birdhouses. They got a birdhouse every place they traveled. And they built shelves in their sunroom just for the birdhouses. They were moving and they couldn't take them with. So what they decided to do is we sat down at the computer and we made a shutterfly book. You can make them at Walgreens, lots of places. We took a picture of each birdhouse, and then we put them on each page, and we were able to write a little paragraph of each. And she was able to take her birdhouses. The next one is perceived value. Sometimes we hold on to something because we think it's going to be valuable. Maybe that's our nest egg. That's what we're going to sell when we need money. Check that out ahead of time, because sometimes perceived value isn't really the actual value of an item or what it's worth. The next one is gifts. This is interesting in Minnesota because we're very Minnesota nice. We keep gifts that people have given us, even though we only put them up when people visit. You don't have to do that anymore. People should never ask you where an item is that they gave you. If they ever ask me, what I tell them is, I appreciate it, I loved it, it was wonderful, and when I decided to redecorate, I gave it to someone else that loved it. That's all you need to say. The next thing is personal identity. A lot of us hold on to things because we want people to know that we accomplished things. We hold on to trophies and awards. We hold on to pictures because we want our grandkids and our kids to know we accomplished something or did something in our younger years. Now is the time to start taking those out and telling the stories about them. That is going to make the kids more apt to maybe want the items, or to tell the stories. You can always journal or do it on video. There are some wonderful companies out there that will do a video for you asking you questions, and they can share that for generations to come. The last thing I want to talk about is legacy items. Now, these are really tough. These are the things that we promised our parents and our grandparents that we would be responsible for, that we would be good stewards of, we would take care of them, and when it's time to pass it down, we'll do that. Well, now's the time, and our kids are saying we don't want them. So what do? Well, those are the tough decisions. Those are putting those items out and deciding which ones you really want to keep. Maybe you have something that the kids don't even know exists, and it means a lot to you. When I was married 28 years ago, my mother-in-law said, "Do you want the punch bowl?" And I said, well, sure. And she went to the closet, brought out this big thing wrapped in a blanket. She opened it up, and it was the most beautiful punch bowl set, crystal punch bowl set that I've ever seen. And I said, that's lovely. She said, I'm so glad you say that because it's from 1794. It's been passed down in my family. And I thought, well, don't the other kids want it? And she said, they don't even know it's here. I never use it because I'm afraid it will get broken. So I tell you what I did. I use that punch bowl at every event at my house. I make punch in it for every family event. My 24-year-old daughter has already said she wants the punch bowl. So bring those items out and start telling the stories of them, taking pictures of them, letting them know why it's special might be the thing they need to keep it. So we've talked about that. And now I want to talk about things that maybe aren't the heirlooms, but things you just can't get rid of. I'm going to show you another cartoon. This is very apt for us because it says, listen here, mister, there's no such thing as too much Tupperware. Now, does this look familiar? I know what I'm talking about because this is mine. We love Tupperware. We love to get those things from the salad bar and wash them and say, I'm going to put leftovers in here. But we can only use so much for leftovers. And then we start piling them up. And instead of recycling them, we put them farther back into the cupboard and we keep getting new ones. This is a wonderful thing to go through and put in recycling. If you are the person that cooks during the holidays and you like to give leftovers to family and grandkids, I used to do that too. I have 2 kids and I cook like I have 6. What I do is tell them all to bring their own baggies and their own Tupperware. And then I fill them up and they take them away. So then I don't have to store all these items. So this is one thing we like to collect. The other thing we have a hard time getting rid of, cookbooks. We love our cookbooks, male and female. We love our cookbooks. Sometimes when I go through cupboards with people, they have 2 large shelves that are actually bowing because they have so many cookbooks. These are things we need to go through. So if you are a person that loves the pictures, start going through them little by little. And know that you can't take all the cookbooks with you. Take out the recipes that you really love and maybe put them in a 3-ring binder. That's a great thing to do with those kind of recipes. So we'll move on. Now we've talked about the things that are hard to get rid of. And once I sit down with somebody, we don't start, when I come to their home, we don't start immediately going through the closets. What you want to do is sit down and we have a conversation. And we answer a few questions and we talk about the new lifestyle that they want to have. Now, maybe they're going to be moving and it's going to be a completely different lifestyle. Maybe they don't have the same lifestyle they did when their kids were home. So we talk about what is the new lifestyle you want to have? Well, a lot of questions. One is, will you be doing your own cleaning? Maybe you have more than 1 bathroom in your home and you have a lot of cleaning supplies. We often will use a cleaning agent, and we don't really like it, but we don't get rid of it. We put it back under the shelf. So we've accumulated these things. A lot of times people can go down to 1 bucket and carry it around with you as you clean. The next item is, will you be cooking? And has that changed? Maybe it's just you and your spouse. Maybe you aren't doing large family Thanksgivings. Maybe you've passed that on to the next generation, but you like to cook. So what kinds of things are you going to need to do your cooking? Maybe you're a baker and you do need certain things when you bake. So you want to pay attention to how are you cooking and has that changed? The next thing is, will you be entertaining and how? Has that changed? Maybe you're still having book club, Bible study, poker night. What kind of entertaining do you do? Did you used to do dinners and now maybe you just have snacks? Maybe you used to get out all the china, all the nice plates, and people are really moving to more casual entertaining. So they're using paper plates and paper napkins. So really sit down and think about, how are we entertaining? What kind of groups are we entertaining? The next one is tough. This is, do you need all your seasonal holiday decorations? I see you wincing. We love our seasonal holiday decorations. I had one person, when I did a seminar, they raised their hand and said, do you mean one bin per holiday? Nope, not if you're moving to a small place. Maybe you used to decorate every room in your home, but you can pare it down to where maybe you're doing just the living room and the kitchen, maybe a guest bathroom. I challenge you to go through your seasonal items and take out the things that you love, that you want to give pride of place. Put those things out. And then during the holidays, when people come and family comes, ask them if they want the things that you're no longer using, so that you highlight things you really love. The next one is, will you be doing your own maintenance? Well, if you're moving to a smaller apartment or a townhome, maybe you're moving to a community where they have maintenance for you and you won't have to do your own. A lot of times, then we go down to maybe a toolbox that has a hammer and a few things. If you're going to be hanging pictures, you can go down to a lot of things that you used to use that you don't need anymore. Sometimes people have a garage full of tools and they just have a tool garage sale. And I tell you, people will come out of the woodwork to get tools. So that's a wonderful thing to do, to pass on items. So let me talk for a moment about the complimentary move assessment that our move managers come out and do. When they come out, they ask you what kind of services you're looking for, and they would tailor make them to what you need. They are a wealth of information for resources, and it doesn't cost you anything to have somebody come out and have questions ready so that you can get some idea of what you can do with the things that you have or the questions that you have. They leave you with the estimate, and then if somebody calls us back, that same move manager is going to work with you throughout the entire process. That move manager will come in and they will start with your floor plan. So if you're moving into a Benedictine community, that means that they will give you the floor plan to your apartment. Benedictine has all the floor plans that you need. You want to take that floor plan and you want to measure the closet rods in your closet, and you want to measure it in your new place. Put maybe a little blue piece of tape, and that will tell you how much space you have. You also want to measure the cupboards, the depth and the width, because a lot of new cupboards aren't as big as the ones that we're used to. That's a good thing to do for the floor plan. Your floor plan is your primary reference. That will give you an idea of what you can take, because once your floor plan is full, you have to figure out what to do with the rest of the things. Don't take anything that does not have a place. So I want you to look at this next cartoon. It's wonderful. It says, here's 20 bucks. Make sure the plaid chair never gets there. This has actually happened. I put this in because I like to remind people, when you're doing your floor plan or deciding what you're going to take, start in the place in your home that you spend most of your time in. If you spend most of your time in a den, start there, because you want the chair that you watch the news in at night next to the table with the lamp you can turn on without looking. That keeps your blood pressure down, and it's much easier to acclimate to a new space when you have your things around you. So now we're ready to start downsizing. We're ready to start going through the closets. First thing I do is make a trash. I usually put a box together and put a black garbage bag in it, because then I don't have to keep bending down to put things in the trash. You always want to use black garbage bags with anything that you do. And you probably know why. Because then you won't remember what you put in it. And you won't start going through it again. So black garbage bags. Then you want to put boxes or bags. Usually I put them along a wall with the names of your family members and people that you'll find things for that you want them to look at. Put their names on them. As you go through closets and you find a yearbook for one of your kids, put it in their bag. Then give the kids maybe a 2-week deadline to come and look in their bags. Once they've taken the things that they want out, you can take that bag right to the charity shop and then just keep on going. So you have a place to put things to ask people about. Next, do a hazardous box. This is when you start going under those cupboards and taking out cleaning supplies and sometimes kerosene oil. I see a lot of that. Put that in a box and take it to, every county has a hazardous waste disposal. And you can usually find it on the internet. If you have trouble finding yours, just give us a call at Gentle Transitions and we can give you the phone number. But they're pretty easy to find. Every county has one. You just drive up like you're dropping off something at the charity shop. They take it out of your car and away you go. You do paint, anything like that, anything that's hazardous. So let's go to the next thing. As we start going through the apartment and putting things in your floor plan, we use dots as a form of communication at Gentle Transitions. We use red dots for things that are broken, things that are not going with you. Sometimes we use them to note things you're going to put in an estate sale. We use yellow dots for things that you're undecided about. Maybe if you have room for it, you'll put it in your floor plan, but you're not sure yet. Then we put a yellow dot. We use green dots for things that are absolutely going with you. So if you're doing your kitchen and you put everything in a cupboard, you downsized it, and you can put a green dot on it, you know that somebody can pack that cupboard. So let's talk about the greens. Excuse me. The greens are the things that are absolutely going with you. These can also be your photos, your heirlooms. A lot of people ask me, what do I do with my photos? I have albums. Bring it to one of the places that can put it on DVD for you or a CD. Those are wonderful ways to keep them, make copies so every family member has something like that. If you have boxes of loose photos, what I recommend is take a shoebox. So you're not doing it all, the whole box at one time, and put some of the loose photos in the shoebox. Then sit in the chair that you watch the news at night with a photo pen and a garbage. Throw anything away that is landscaping or people you don't know. And then if you have a photo that you know who it is, write it on the back, put everything back in the shoebox, and give the kids the shoebox. They can decide what to do with it. They're going to probably digitize it anyway, so that at least they'll know who the people are because it's written on the back. The next thing are your yellow things. Now those are things that are now not going in your floor plan because you've done that. So maybe you're going to have an estate sale, maybe you're going to have an antique appraiser look at, maybe give it to consignment or family. If you're going to have an estate sale, I will tell you that only 5% of the 1,200 people we moved last year had an estate sale. There's a reason for that. Estate sale people want you to have enough stuff that they value because they're going to get paid first. They're going to make their profit first. So you want to make sure that you interview maybe 2 or 3 of them and ask them their process. Ask them how they let people know you're having a sale. Do they do it as a hobby and only put it in the newspaper? Do they put it on social media? You want to have as many people know that you're having a sale as you can. Then maybe you have things to go to a charitable organization. You want to make sure you pick the one you want to give things to. Then you want to call them and make sure they take what you want to give them. You want to make sure if they're going to pick up, do they charge a fee? And you want to make sure you get a tax slip. Sometimes people sell things on social media, which is wonderful. Internet, Craigslist. I've been using lately my Nextdoor app on my iPhone, which is fantastic because you can put things at the end of your driveway, put a little notice on Nextdoor, and within 15 minutes, sometimes somebody will come pick it up. That's a wonderful way to put things for free that people can come and recycle. Now, the reds are things that are maybe broken or things you're just getting rid of. And a lot of people get a dumpster, but most people nowadays are getting those green bagsters you see at the end of people's driveways. Those are fantastic because you can throw anything in them except for hazardous or electronics. You could put toilets, you could put filing cabinets. It's a good way to get rid of things. Now let's talk about choosing a moving company. You want to make sure that they're residential. You want to make sure that they've been in the business for years. You want to make sure they're licensed and bonded and insured. And you also want to ask them, have they moved someone to the place you're moving before? Because they will know what the policy is. If they don't know that your apartment is on one end, the elevator is at the other end, and they can only use one elevator, that might put time onto your move, and that will cost you money. So ask them if they've moved you to the place before or moved someone to the place before. Now, General Transitions does packing and moving in 2 days. We pack up the first day. We can usually do a whole house in 4 to 6 hours. The reason we do it in 2 days is a whole day of moving from morning till night is exhausting. And you don't want to get to your new place and have to recuperate for 2 weeks. So we come in and we pack. The same person that's going to pack your kitchen is going to unpack it the next day. So they're paying close attention to, where do you like your spices? Where do you like things in your kitchen? And we're going to try and duplicate that. Then the next day, your same crew is going to help. They come in and they are going to open the boxes that they packed the day before. Whoever packed up the master bedroom is going to unpack that. Whoever packed up the kitchen is going to unpack that. They're going to make the beds. They're going to set your clocks. They're going to put clothes in the closets. They're going to make the beds. And they're going to hang your artwork so that you are all done in 2 days. Then you can start joining in at your new community or wherever you move, and everything is done. What General Transition is known for is photographing and replicating. So those people I talked about, that your packing team will come in, everybody has an iPhone or an iPad. And let's say you have a china cabinet. We're going to take a picture of each shelf in that filing cabinet, and we're going to put things back the next day in the exact place. Because you took time to design your space and we don't want to redesign it for you. We want to keep it familiar. Sometimes people laugh because we also take a picture of the refrigerator. But that's where we keep our often photos. That's where we keep our telephone list, our doctor, our vet. Sometimes we keep our invitations or our calendar or the events going on in the community. That is kind of the hub of a house. And when you move and you don't have those things put back in that place, and you need to call the vet or the doctor, you have to go remember where you put that. So we take a picture of that refrigerator and we put it back the exact same way. So if you're moving yourself, make sure to take a picture of your fridge, put everything in a shoebox, and have somebody put it back the same way. That is really, really helpful. So I have one last cartoon for you. And it's really important because this is where you don't want to be. One day, son, all this will be yours. This is what you don't want to have to do. You don't want to leave this for your kids where the really important things get lost. So I challenge you to just start small. Start right away, maybe even a junk drawer. I guarantee you that once you start, it will give you the momentum to keep going. And it will make your move someday less expensive and so much more wonderful to get into the community and start your new life. Thank you so much for having me here to talk with you. I really appreciate it. And it is never too early to start downsizing.
Jill, thank you.
Oh, you're so
This has
welcome.
been so informative. My favorite, you've got so many good ideas. You know, I attend a lot of webinars and conferences, and I always think, okay, if I can even come out with one little nugget, I'm doing great. I think for me, I think I came out with like 10 or 15 nuggets. So
Good.
this was great. I love the idea of cutting out your recipes or tearing out your recipes and putting them into a 3-ring binder, because we don't need the big books. I mean, we use the same recipes over and over, and we take notes, and
Right.
there's stains on them that remind us of a certain holiday or something.
Sure.
Can you, there was one thing you mentioned that I wasn't familiar with. What's a bagster?
A bagster are those green bags you see when you drive through a neighborhood and they're at the end of your driveway. They're green bags with yellow handles, and they're about the size of a hot tub. And people can fill them up to the brink, and you call, or you can get online and make a pickup date. They pick it up within 3 days. It sometimes will cost about $100. You can pick those bagsters up just in a package at any Ace Hardware, Menards, Home Depot. They have them everywhere. And you just set them up right on your driveway. And then they come pick it up. Sometimes I don't have enough stuff to fill it, so I go in with my neighbors. So if cost is keeping you from doing it, ask your neighbors if they have some things to get rid of.
That is a great resource. I wasn't familiar with that.
Wonderful.
So we have some questions, and
Go for it.
please, folks out there, we have plenty of times for questions. So if you have more questions that you're wondering about, please type them in. Melissa asks, if parents are moving in 1 year and need to downsize by half, what timelines or steps do you recommend? And also, I think you talked a little bit about kids who are out of town. If you're in town, maybe what do those timelines and steps look like?
I would start right away, because sometimes it will take months to go through things. It depends on how quickly they can get rid of things, or how often the kids can come in if they're out of town. So start right away, start today with a small area. And then the more you start doing it, the easier it will be. That's what I would recommend.
That's great. That's great. We have another longer question here. Dawn says, I like that you say to take it slow. We're moving my mother-in-law into a Benedictine community this week. As we go through her things, she likes to talk about some of them, and it takes time. This has been a quick decision, but we're taking the time to let her know, let her tell us all the stories. Then she will know if she wants to take it with her, or if she's or not. And they said she's been doing a great job of not talking too much or taking too much.
That is hard, but I applaud them for listening to the stories, because sometimes that's all they need, is to just tell the story about it. Then once
Yeah.
they tell the story and maybe somebody could take a picture of it, they can have the picture, because they can retell that story over and over, but they don't have to take the item. I can tell you, sometimes I had a client who had a big chest of silverware, sterling silver. He wanted to keep it. He never used it anymore, but he wanted to keep it. And I said, if that's one of those items you can't live without, by all means take it. The kids have to understand that there are some things your parents are going to want to take, but a good thing to talk about is, if you're taking that item, it's going to take the place of something else that you may want to take. So you need to make space for it. So sometimes it's a decision. If there's something you absolutely can't get rid of, or they're having trouble, put it aside. Because the more you do it, when you go back to that item, it will be a different conversation and might be a little bit easier.
That's great. Donna asks, where do you start with items that could be valuable?
I would have somebody come to the house and walk around and appraise items. If you have antiques, maybe if you have smaller items, you can bring them to an appraiser. I would definitely have them appraised before you start giving them away, if somebody thinks that they're valuable. That's really important. And a lot of places will come out for a fee and go through all different kinds of things: antiques, silver, crystal, paintings. Sometimes you can take pictures of things. If you think something is valuable and you want to ask, maybe at an antique store, take a picture of those items and bring them in and say, do you know if this is valuable? Do you know if people are buying this? Would you consign this? Pictures are helpful without having to take in the big item.
That's great. Any suggestions for an extremely stubborn parent? He's determined that he doesn't want his strangers to look at his things.
That happens a lot.
I'm
I
sure.
can tell you, when I call somebody before I come to their house, they're very hesitant. All of our downsizers are people that are trained, but they're also people that were hired just because they're wonderful, patient people. And once they start working with someone and they see that they are respectful, that they'll listen to the stories, that they're not going to just say, toss it, toss it, toss it, and make them uncomfortable, it's so much easier for them to go through things. I have had a couple clients that say, I can't work with my daughter or son, but I can work with my grandchild. Grandchildren are wonderful because they'll listen to the stories. And they're a little less pushy.
A little more patient.
Little more patient because they don't really see the end game. They just want to spend time with each other. Having your grandkids help is good. Also talking about how it's affecting you. If you have a parent that says, no, nobody's going through my things and I don't want to do it with anybody. If you say, you know, I'm worried that I'm going to have to do all this and I won't know what's important. I want to do it with you. And we can start small. We can start in a place that doesn't give you so much anxiety. We can start in a small place like the luggage closet. Start in those kinds of places and build that kind of rapport where they know that you're going to be respectful.
That's great. Dennis asks, how do you determine what clothing can be donated? My father and I will be looking through all of my mother's clothes. She passed away a couple years ago, and we're not real good at determining what could be accepted. And do you have a recommendation as to a specific charity, such as Goodwill or the VA or whatnot?
You know, there are so many charities. I usually ask when I work with somebody what charity they would like me to bring it to. So if you're not sure about the charities in your area, do a little research, find out where the money goes to. When it comes to clothes, just about anything can be donated. If it's in good condition, don't worry about the style. If it's out of fashion, a lot of places, once you give clothing, if they don't put it on the rack for the clothes, they will recycle the fabric. There are a couple places that will just take fabric and cloth, and you can find those on the internet, but I wouldn't worry about if it's out of style. If you have maybe suits, or if your father wore a suit every day and ties, there's a wonderful organization called Dress for Success, and they help people start getting wardrobes for interviews and starting to work. And that's a wonderful place to give dress shoes, dresses, suits for men and women. And I recommend them highly.
That's great. Anne says, my mom is willing to donate items, but as she's doing bits and pieces, as she's not willing to go through things room by room. This approach is very slow, and we need to increase the donation amount in order to get her moved. How do you recommend that she helps her mom better there?
That do I understand that she's not going?
It looks like she's not doing it room by room. She's doing it in small pieces.
Oh, yeah.
And so she's not accumulating enough.
Well, and you don't see that you're moving forward. You don't see progress when you're doing bits and pieces of things. So find somewhere small, like a closet, and start there. Sometimes people can't do it for hours on end. I found that when I work with someone that's 80, 90, even 70, that the attention span, or people get really exhausted. And you don't think it's exhausting to make those decisions, but it really is psychologically exhausting and physically exhausting. So when I work with somebody, I put a chair down, I give them a bottle of water, and I'm the one touching all the things. and we decide what to do with them. So maybe they just need to do them in smaller increments. Maybe do a drawer in a bureau, and then do a drawer a day, and go back to see that progress. I know I worked with a wonderful client that we did a pantry. It was very unorganized, and we organized it. It looked beautiful. She was so excited that every time she was feeling like she was getting a little behind, she'd go and open up the pantry and just go, ah. So if you have those spaces, that will really energize you to keep doing it. So do it maybe in smaller increments.
Where do you know where you can find Dress for Success? Is that just a Twin Cities organization, or do you know anything more about it?
Yes, I'd find it right on the internet. Just put in your browser Dress for Success organization, and you can get their address and
I know that other nonprofits have similar types of programs if you don't have Dress for Success in your area. I know our nonprofit has a back to work type, like what you're talking about, but it's not called that. So just ask at your local nonprofits if they have something like that.
Well, and I can tell you too, if you have something that you're not sure where they will take it, find somebody that can help you on the computer if you're not computer savvy, and start just putting things in your browser. You can say, who takes suit coats? Who takes crystal? Does anybody else, or what places take carnival glass? You just start putting it in there and start going down that rabbit hole and start getting resources. It's amazing what you can find in your area.
So if somebody is moving and they have a move date planned, how far in advance do they start planning? How far in advance do they call the movers or a company like yours? What other kind of timelines can you offer?
I would say even if you're moving in a year, give us a call, because you can have that move manager come out, and it doesn't cost anything, but it kind of gives you an idea. They can answer questions for you. They can answer resource questions. They can also give you the estimate of what it would cost to move, so you have that estimate. And if it's high, that can really motivate people to start downsizing, because they can't take everything. Right. So call as soon as you find out you're moving. And our move managers, kind of the wedding planners of the move, they take care of the movers and everything. But you want to get kind of a timeline. Sometimes the movers, and I will tell you, if you call and you're moving the next month, there might not be a mover available, especially because people move the 1st and the 30th. And often those trucks are already spoken for. So the sooner you know you're moving, call a moving company and get on their list, get on their calendar.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
Kind of like keep comparing to wedding planners. You got to get the good dates, right?
Right, exactly. There's a lot of parallels there.
Right.
Yeah.
Another question, somebody's moving from out of state. They both go to assisted living because of her elder husband, who she's a caregiver for. She says, I'm no spring chicken, but younger. The potential is I may be in an apartment of my own later. Moving from Florida to Minnesota. Ooh, I'm sorry that you're moving from Florida to Minnesota. Suggestions. I'm from Minnesota. I feel I should take things for that transition. I hear what you're saying about things and done. So basically she's saying she might be in a smaller place first and then might have to move later to an apartment. So what should she do with her things in the transition?
Moving state to state?
Yeah.
Okay.
But into assisted living first and then possibly to an apartment. So she wants to keep some of her things. I think I have that right, Carolyn. Okay. Type if I don't.
We do a lot of state to state moves. And what we do is work with an organization. I'll just give you this tidbit. It's the NASM, the National Association of Move Managers.org. And they have people that do what we do all over the United States. And you just put in your zip code and they can find a downsizer for you, a moving company, give you all kinds of resources. We have a lot of people that will move from maybe Florida. They're moving to Minnesota to be closer to family. And they're not sure where they're going to be yet. So you can get a moving company to store your items until you find the new place you're moving into. If you're moving into a small place that doesn't have storage for the items you think you're going to need later, then I would suggest doing a little research on storage. Some places, moving companies will store the truck for you until you need it. We move a lot of people from their homes and then they go away for the winter and they're going to move into their new place in the spring. And so we take things out of the place and then bring it to their new place. So I hope that helps.
And I think maybe even an independent storage unit, if she knows there are certain things that she might need later, right, that
Yes.
she could store if they don't have because most assisted livings probably are not going to have the kind of storage that she needs. So yeah. Well, I think that covers our questions. Are there any parting thoughts, Jill, that you want to leave our listeners with?
I would love to leave everybody with start early, because the sooner you start, the decisions are yours. If you get into a crisis situation, those decisions get taken away from you and you want to be a part of that. So start doing it today, even if it's a junk drawer.
That's great. I don't think you can ever start too young. You can always get rid of things.
Well, people are downsizing. You start downsizing when your kids go from babies to toddlers.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's not just older adults that are doing it.
Right,
Absolutely.
So we hope to, somebody asked if you can repeat the name of that company that helped you move across the country. National
Association of Move Managers. It's N as in Nancy, A as in Apple, SMM.org.
National Association of Move Managers.
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you. Good advice. We hope to, we will follow this up we've had a couple of people ask if we have this in written form that we can send out to you, and we can certainly do that. So if you're on this webinar, we have your information. So we will follow up with an email. We'll also post it on our website, benedictineliving.org, benedictineliving.org, and you could get it there too. So Jill, thank you so much for spending this morning with us and sharing this great wisdom with everybody. I know I've got a few things I can do at home now, so I'm going to get started right away. Thank you so much, and thanks to all of you for joining us for this episode of Living Well with Benedictine. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.